August 14, 1983, 11:47 p.m., Washington Square Park, New York City. 25-year-old Prince Rogers Nelson was walking through Greenwich Village after finishing a late recording session at Electric Lady Studios, when he encountered something that would force him to prove his artistry extended far beyond the stage and recording booth. In the park center, under the harsh glow of streetlights, 19-year-old Marcus "Lightning" Rodriguez, leader of the Electric Shock Crew, one of the most feared breakdancing groups in all 5 boroughs, was commanding a circle of over 200 spectators who had gathered to witness what had become legendary weekend battles between New York's best b-boys. Prince stopped to watch, his purple leather jacket and delicate frame immediately drawing attention from the predominantly Black and Latino crowd who viewed him as an outsider in their world of raw street culture and physical expression. When Lightning spotted Prince observing from the edge of the circle, he called out over the booming boombox playing Apache by the incredible bongo band, "Yo, purple boy! You the singer, right? The pretty one who makes music for white girls? Why don't you step into this circle and show us what kind of moves you got, when there ain't no backup dancers to hide behind?" The challenge echoed through the park like a declaration of war, with the crowd sensing blood as they formed a tighter circle around what they assumed would be the public humiliation of a pop star who had wandered into a world where reputation was earned through physical skill, raw power, and the kind of street credibility that no amount of commercial success could purchase. What happened during the next 17 minutes didn't just shock Lightning and his crew, it redefined everything the New York b-boy community thought they understood about performance, rhythm, and the difference between someone who dances for cameras and someone who moves with their soul. If you believe that true artistry transcends every boundary critics try to construct, and that the most powerful performances emerge when skill meets soul in moments of pure creative challenge, please subscribe to witness how one artist's unexpected mastery transformed a potential humiliation into a legendary demonstration that street culture and musical genius are not separate worlds, but different expressions of the same creative force. Washington Square Park in August 1983 was the epicenter of New York City's breakdancing explosion. Every weekend, crews from all 5 boroughs would converge on the park's central plaza to engage in battles that determined reputation, territory, and respect within the rapidly growing hip-hop culture. Marcus "Lightning" Rodriguez was a local legend from the South Bronx whose athletic background in gymnastics and martial arts had given him moves that seemed to defy gravity. Born to Puerto Rican immigrants, he had discovered breakdancing at age 13 as an alternative to the drug dealing and gang violence that claimed many of his childhood friends. His obsessive practice sessions that lasted 8 to 10 hours daily had transformed him into one of the most technically skilled b-boys in the city. Prince's presence in the park that evening resulted from a recording session that had run late at Electric Lady Studios, where he had been working on tracks for what would become his Purple Rain album. His decision to walk through Greenwich Village, rather than taking a taxi, reflected his fascination with New York street culture and desire to understand the urban creative forces influencing mainstream music. The confrontation began when Lightning was in the middle of an extended power move sequence, athletic floor spins, freezes, and acrobatic transitions that demonstrated both his physical conditioning and technical mastery. The crowd responded with vocal appreciation, but Lightning's performance was interrupted when he noticed Prince's distinctive appearance at the crowd's periphery. Hold up, Lightning called out, stopping his routine. "Yo, purple boy, you the singer, right? The pretty one who makes music for white girls?" The crowd's energy shifted immediately as they recognized Lightning was calling out a celebrity. Conversations stopped. Attention focused on the developing confrontation between the street culture leader and the unexpected visitor. "Why don't you step into this circle," Lightning continued, "and show us what kind of moves you got when there ain't no backup dancers to hide behind?" The challenge created immediate tension. Here was a respected b-boy leader publicly challenging someone who appeared to represent everything street culture defined itself against: commercial success, mainstream appeal, and artistic presentation that prioritized polish over authenticity. Prince stepped forward through the crowd until he reached the circle's edge. The movement created anticipation as spectators realized the challenged artist was actually going to respond rather than retreating. "Lightning," Prince said, his voice carrying clearly. "That's an interesting challenge. What makes you think that commercial success and street credibility can't coexist in the same artist?" Lightning laughed, interpreting Prince's measured response as stalling. "Because real street culture is about proving yourself through skill, not studio tricks. It's about showing what you can do with your body, your rhythm, your connection to the beat, when there's nowhere to hide." Prince nodded thoughtfully. "I understand your point about authentic expression, but what if commercial success and street authenticity aren't opposites? What if they're just different ways of expressing the same creative force?" Lightning seemed intrigued that Prince was proposing actual physical competition. "You want a battle? I want to show you something," Prince replied, stepping into the circle's center. "Something about the relationship between rhythm, movement, and the kind of soul that connects all forms of authentic expression." Before we reveal how Prince's response to Lightning's street challenge became one of the most legendary moments in hip-hop history, and what happened when commercial artistry met street culture in ways that redefined both concepts, let me ask you, have you ever seen someone prove that excellence transcends every category critics use to limit it? Have you witnessed the moment when true skill reveals itself through demonstration that speaks directly to the soul? Share your thoughts in the comments, because what happened next became a defining moment in understanding how authentic artistry operates beyond the boundaries that culture tries to construct around it. Prince positioned himself in the circle's center, his smaller frame creating a visual contrast with Lightning's muscular build that made the upcoming battle appear uneven. The crowd pressed closer, sensing they were about to witness either embarrassing failure or something unprecedented in their street culture experience. "DJ, run that Apache break one more time," Prince called out to the teenager operating the boombox, demonstrating familiarity with hip-hop's musical foundations that surprised many spectators who had assumed his knowledge was limited to pop music production techniques and commercial radio formats. As the driving percussion of Apache by the incredible bongo band filled the park, the same breakbeat that had become the unofficial anthem of breakdancing battles across New York City, Prince began moving in ways that immediately challenged every assumption the crowd had made about his physical capabilities and understanding of street dance culture. Rather than attempting to imitate breakdancing techniques he clearly hadn't formally studied, Prince created movement that incorporated elements from multiple dance traditions, while maintaining his own distinctive style and artistic identity. His approach was revolutionary. Instead of trying to be a b-boy, he was showing how different forms of dance could enhance and complement each other when combined by someone with sufficient creativity and physical skill. Prince's opening sequence combined James Brown-inspired footwork with ballet-influenced spins and freezes that showed both athletic conditioning and artistic sophistication that had been developed through years of stage performances and physical training. His movements flowed seamlessly from standing dance to floor work to acrobatic transitions that demonstrated he possessed the physical strength and coordination that breakdancing demanded, but applied through his own creative filter, rather than copying established conventions. The crowd's initial amusement, the kind of skeptical laughter that preceded expected humiliation, quickly transformed into amazement as they recognized that Prince's movement wasn't just technically proficient, it was innovative. He was incorporating elements they had never seen combined before and creating visual effects that expanded their understanding of what dance could accomplish when performed by someone with sufficient knowledge of multiple traditions. But Prince's most devastating move was yet to come. As the Apache break reached its climactic percussion section, Prince began incorporating live vocal performance into his dance routine, singing and rapping in rhythm while maintaining complex physical choreography that would have been challenging for most dancers even without the additional demand of vocal performance. The integration of singing, rapping, and dancing created a complete entertainment experience that operated on levels pure breakdancing couldn't match, Prince was demonstrating that street culture's emphasis on individual skill expression could be elevated through artistic sophistication that enhanced rather than replaced the raw energy that made hip-hop culture powerful. Lightning watched from the circle's edge, his expression showing growing recognition that he was witnessing something that transcended typical battle categories and challenged his fundamental assumptions about the relationship between commercial success and authentic artistic expression. Here was someone proving that commercial success hadn't diminished his connection to the creative forces that drove authentic urban expression. It had simply given him additional tools for manifesting those forces in ways that could reach broader audiences without compromising their essential power and authenticity. The transformation happening in Lightning's mind was visible to experienced observers in the crowd who understood street culture psychology. His initial dismissive posture, arms crossed, weight shifted to one leg, expression showing bored anticipation of easy victory, had gradually changed to active attention, then amazement, then something approaching respect for someone whose abilities clearly operated on levels he had never previously encountered or imagined possible. As Prince's routine continued, building complexity and emotional intensity with each transition, he began incorporating elements that directly responded to Lightning's challenge about authenticity and street credibility. Using mime techniques learned from studying Marcel Marceau, martial arts movements absorbed from years of studying Bruce Lee films, and contemporary dance influences gained from working with professional choreographers, Prince created storytelling through movement that addressed themes of urban struggle, artistic ambition, and the determination required to transcend circumstances through creative excellence and relentless dedication to craft. The crowd found themselves emotionally invested in Prince's performance in ways that surprised them. This wasn't just technical demonstration, it was narrative art that spoke to their own experiences of using creativity to transform limitation into possibility. For his final sequence, Prince invited Lightning to join him in the circle for a collaborative routine rather than continuing competitive battle. The gesture surprised everyone, including Lightning himself, who found himself drawn into movement that combined his b-boy power moves with Prince's more fluid musical approach. The collaboration that emerged during the final 4 minutes created something neither artist could have achieved alone. Lightning's athletic power provided foundation for Prince's artistic innovations, while Prince's musical sophistication gave structure and emotional depth to Lightning's impressive but sometimes repetitive technical display. When the Apache break finally ended, Washington Square Park erupted in applause that continued for several minutes. The crowd had witnessed not just a successful battle response, but a redefinition of what competitive artistic expression could accomplish when guided by generosity rather than ego. Lightning approached Prince with obvious emotion, his earlier challenging attitude completely transformed. "Yo, Prince, what you just did, that wasn't just dancing. That was like showing us a whole new language for expressing what we all feel but didn't know how to say." Prince looked at Lightning with satisfaction that came not from victory, but from successful communication between artists who had found common ground. "Lightning, you're incredible. What I just demonstrated wasn't better than what you do. It was different. The question isn't whether street culture or commercial artistry is more authentic. The question is why we assume they can't learn from each other." The conversation that followed lasted over an hour, with Prince and Lightning discussing movement, music, and artistic expression. Other dancers and hip-hop artists who had witnessed the battle gathered around to participate in discussions that bridged cultural divides and created new possibilities for artistic collaboration. "Would you be willing to work with my crew on some routines?" Lightning asked, representing genuine desire to continue learning from someone whose approach had expanded his understanding of what dance could accomplish. "I'd be honored to collaborate with you," Prince replied. "But I'd also like to learn more about the street techniques you use. Your power moves and freezes have qualities that could enhance my stage performances." The mutual respect that emerged from their encounter led to several months of informal collaboration, with Lightning and Electric Shock crew members visiting Prince's studios to work on choreography that combined b-boy techniques with theatrical presentation, while Prince spent time in Bronx community centers learning street dance fundamentals. When Prince's Purple Rain tour began in late 1984, audiences noticed that his stage choreography had gained athletic power and street authenticity that hadn't characterized his earlier performances. Similarly, the Electric Shock Crew's routines began incorporating musical sophistication and narrative structure that elevated their technical skills. The impact extended beyond individual artistic development to influence broader relationships between hip-hop culture and mainstream music industry. Prince's respectful engagement with street culture helped legitimize hip-hop as sophisticated art worthy of serious attention, while Lightning's willingness to work with commercial artists helped bridge cultural divides. In interviews conducted years later, both artists described their Washington Square Park encounter as one of the most significant learning experiences of their careers. Lightning credited Prince with teaching him that commercial success could enhance rather than compromise artistic authenticity, while Prince acknowledged that Lightning had shown him how raw physical expression could amplify musical sophistication. "That night in the park changed how I think about different forms of artistic expression," Lightning told The Source magazine in 1990. "Prince showed me that technique and soul aren't opposites. They're different tools for expressing the same creative truth." When Prince died in 2016, Lightning organized a memorial battle in Washington Square Park that attracted b-boys, musicians, and fans from across the country. The event featured performances combining hip-hop techniques with musical elements inspired by Prince's approach. "Prince taught us that art is bigger than any category critics try to put it in," Lightning said during the memorial. "He showed us that the most powerful expression comes from understanding every tool available and using them all to serve whatever truth you're trying to communicate." Today, Washington Square Park features a small plaque near the fountain commemorating their encounter, August 14, 1983, where street culture met musical genius and both were transformed through mutual respect and creative collaboration. Prince Rogers Nelson proved that true artistry transcends every boundary critic's construct, and that the most powerful creative expressions emerge when different traditions meet with mutual respect, genuine curiosity, and willingness to learn from forms of excellence that operate outside familiar categories. A pop star taught street culture that commercial success could serve rather than compromise authentic expression, while a b-boy leader showed a musical genius that physical performance could amplify sophisticated artistry when both served the same goal of communicating universal human truth. If this story reminds you that excellence recognizes excellence regardless of its form, and that the most powerful art emerges when different traditions strengthen rather than threaten each other, please subscribe to keep these lessons alive. Because the world needs more examples of how authentic respect creates bridges between communities, and how the greatest artists understand that collaboration multiplies rather than divides creative possibility.